Hey, Stan, here we are in the man cave, and am I a bit low there? Should have adjusted it beforehand, really, shouldn't I? Are you in for do you want a long video of me talking absolute crap as always? Oh, okay then. Hey, guess what? Guess what? I'm off work tomorrow. Huh. So light, fresh refreshments abound. I wouldn't be bothered if anybody from my military collecting contacts doesn't watch me swim and diving videos. I mean, I just don't do it enough to warrant another a channel on its own. You need to be GoPro on it. You know, obviously there's people out there who are right into it. It's their main hobby, and I have tried GoPro on a version of a GoPro. I bought a cheap one, and I found I was concentrating too much on trying to get good shots of me and my mate. And one video, it disappeared when I tried to upload it. Really frustrating. I would rather go in there for now and just look at the stuff with my own eyes and enjoy what I'm doing rather than try and film it. And the other thing is, I'm not really, it's been in my life on and off since 1991 doing this, thanks to my old cousin in Australia. But certainly when I was spearfishing and stuff in Australia with my cousin, he led me by the hand. We're going now because the tide's right, the water's right, etc, etc. So I'm not an expert, and it's only really the last few years of me and my mates starting to do it in this part of the world, this part of the coast. I've started to think about the tides. That's why I wanted to go yesterday, because I thought it's perfect. And looking down today, it's absolutely peeing down here in the northeast, and so the sea will probably be cloudy. As far as I'm aware, so I'm still, even though I've been doing it a long time, I'm still a bit of an amateur, if that makes sense. The North Sea is more cloudy than the West Coast, and it's simply to do with you know, you've got the Tyne, the Wee, the Tees, the Humber, all these rivers pouring silt, sediment into the sea. The North Sea is quite sedimentary anyway. I think Northumberland borders of Scotland, and down in Norfolk it's a bit clearer. I think that's to do with the way the current goes. Something I've read into it a little bit. So I'm probably living in the epicentre of like crap city for when it comes to snorkeling. But my mate, who's on all these chat rooms, said there's a few fellas who go just local spear gunning, and they're trying to drum up more support for get-togethers and joint dives, and he's on about doing that. I don't know how I feel about that. Even though I do feel confident in the water, and I would boat dive. I like to dive in shallow in bays, so I can see. I feel like I've got land around me, if that makes sense. So even though it's always been in my life, I've had that rugby, outdoor pursuits, and military, and each one's shifted and moved about as life's gone on. Like obviously rugby, and I'm too old to be doing that. But yeah, it's an interest for me. Sorry if I bored you crapless, but it's probably for my own records to share with family and friends. You want military when you come here, don't you? On a Sunday in Stilmstan's Man Cave, it's absolutely bouncing here. All my diving gear is hung up under my new gazebo thing. Anyway. Well, also, you won't see the mark, but my head's quite sore. So I dived down and I nutted a rock. Not good, not good. Ow, ow, ouch. The rock split in two, apparently. Only joking. I've got a thick head. What else have you been buying, Stan? I got this off eBay. All in fighting. WE Fairbairn of Fairbairn Sykes. Commando knife frame. And there is a little bit of a blurb at the front about him. And I picked it up simply because I have read about them before, off the top of my head, even though I had a little scan on the front. He was in the Shanghai police as a detective for years. And he was all jiu-jitsu, you know, martial art type stuff, but also he combined that with street fighting. Basically, you know, I know he was having rules if you're gonna get like stabbed. So I'm sure his mate Sykes was in the Shanghai police as well, and he ended up teaching the British Army unarmed combat. Now I don't know anything about unarmed combat. You know, I've obviously played rugby, but I haven't done anything other than that. And it's quite strange. I was thinking the old films, how they, you know, go up to a German sentry and go, and he goes like that, and I'm thinking, no, people don't die like that. People die kicking and screaming. You know, they don't want to get sorted out. And a couple of the little ones in here. There's one, if I can find it before you get bored. It was a stranglehold. I'm not going to find it, am I? I'm not going to find it. I'll stop looking in a minute. Japanese strangle. Anyway, I said to my wife, attack me, you know, like Monty Python with the sharpened fruit. Come at me with a banana. and she put her hand there, and according to this book, you go that, and then in the groin, and that's the person dealt with. So an interesting book to look at, and you know, there obviously will be people in the world who are fully conversant with this sort of stuff, and probably would feel no fear walking the streets, I suppose, because you'd be able to deal with most half-wits, I would imagine. I know it's not designed for that. People who study martial arts don't do that to give themselves a self-defense, but I suppose it's something that I don't know, in the modern world, that it probably wouldn't harm people to know. So a quick flick of that be interesting to read. So, real militaria. Watch out, the baldy head's coming out for a bit. I've been naughty, actually. I've repaired this chin strap on here with a bit of gaffer tape. Shouldn't do that, Stan. I know, don't nag me. What have I got on? Anyone guess this helmet? You've seen it before. It is the Portuguese M40 in a sort of brown tan colour, which means that it was used exclusively in Portugal, I think. If it's green, it's overseas in the Portuguese colonies. Portugal had one of the oldest empires in the world. It was a fascist government under Salazar, and they had a lot of wars in the 1950s and 60s trying to keep their empire together. Mozambique, and can't remember the rest of them, in Africa. And when Salazar died, I believe that was the end of the Portuguese fascist government, totalitarian regime, I suppose, in some respects it must have been. That's just from memory of me doing a video about this before. But that helmet goes very nicely with this. So there you go. Do you want me to talk about it? I'll talk about it, of course I will. Right, first of all, I'm going to take this helmet off because it looks silly. That doesn't. It's quite a nice little steel pot, that. Based on like a medieval, is it Salade? Or I can't remember. But I think I'm sure it is. That's just from memory from me doing the video on it ages ago. Do you mind if I put my cap back on? When my little sisters came around here last week, I have younger siblings, 20 or 19 years younger, and she likes a bit of man cave action. You know, she likes to come in and have a beer with me. And she said, "Oh, you know, in your videos, you look like a right old git when you got a baldy head. When you got a cap on, you look younger." So there you go. There you go, little sister, if you're watching. So anyway. Unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, it's just the way things are, I'm going to have to do some notes reading. So what I'll do is I'll get this rifle up and hopefully you can see it. It's obviously United Kingdom. It is a deactivated rifle. Now this is, actually I don't need my glasses on because it's too far away in between glasses type. I'll try and do it the way I did it last time. Hold it there. So this is the Portuguese Mauser-Vergueiro. Hopefully I've pronounced that right. 1904/39. It was designed in 1904 by José Alberto Vergueiro. He was an infantry officer in the Portuguese army. They were manufactured by the Deutsche Waffen- und Munitionsfabrik of Berlin, DWM, also Fábrica de Braco de Prota in, I would imagine, Portugal. Developed from the Mauser 98 rifle and had a new bolt system derived from the Gewehr 1888 and the Manikler Schnurnauer. Schnurnauer? What I would say is to put your mind at rest. If you see that bridge, that split bridge here. Now, I'm not going to go into the techniques of these sort of things. I think that's probably something you probably won't even listen. But basically, like bolt action rifles, as far as I'm aware, me being an amateur. I mean, I've been, you know, well, actually, I'll get to that bit later. I'm jumping ahead of myself. This here, the split bridge, there's lock and lugs on bolts. For example, this is basically a pressured area, isn't it? Where when the round is fired, so much pressure in here. If there's a fault, the bolt could come back and smash you in the face, explode. This is like a double safety, if you like, more of a safer weapon because it's physically all this part. I suppose this is still the receiver. The bolt is not going to come past here, is it? Unless it shattered the handle. But I don't think that's going to happen. You see that there? So yeah, a very safe system, I would imagine. So outside Portugal, it was also known as the Portuguese Mauser. So there you go. That's what I'd call it. It used a 6.5 by 58mm Vergueiro, a cartridge specially developed for it. See, I'll give you another little look at it while I'm chitter-chatting. The previous rifle in the Portuguese armoury was the Kropatschek M1886, and it was replaced, this rifle was replaced, this one here, by the Mauser K98K of Germany. Made, I think they were all made in Germany as well. Those carbines available, the full-size rifle, this one, 100,000 were made and 5,000 were chambered in 7.57 Mauser in 1906 for the Brazilian Federal Police. And apparently they used a different bayonet, a Yagatan bayonet, which is one of these here. That's for a chassepot, French chassepot, but Yagatan is that shape. Something like that. Oh, I'm going off notes here, off piste. Careful, but have a drink of beer. Could be a 20-minute of this. Strap yourself in. Stillman stands on a roll. Anyway, so in 1915, 20,000 were sold to South Africa to bolster their supply of SMLEs. It was short. Now, I did read somewhere else that the Portuguese were in Mozambique and they sold them from Mozambique to South Africa, which makes sense. Well, it's in Africa, isn't it? I'm not actually sure what it is in relation to South Africa. In Portugal and South African service, it was used in combat during World War I and several colonial campaigns. The Germans in East Africa used them, and although the Portuguese Expeditionary Corps in World War I used British weapons and equipment for logistical reasons, so the Portuguese were on the Western Front, as far as I'm aware. Now, although Portugal was neutral during World War II, the Portuguese forces fought briefly with the Japanese over the area, the Portuguese Timor. The Japanese tried to invade. But the Portuguese troops used Kropatschek rifles, but they also must have used Vergueiros as well, because that did come, I did read that as well, a bit of a confusing thing on that, but there you go. In 1939, the Portuguese adopted the German K98K Mauser, and it was called in their inventory the M1937. Many of the remaining Vergueiros were modified to chamber the new Mauser cartridge, and they were the modified rifles were called the Espigada M19 8mm M1904 39. The markings stayed the same, apart from some being re-stamped. So I've struggled a little bit there, didn't I? So now what I'm thinking here, this originally, this rifle was in 6.5 millimeter by 58. So that is a smaller cartridge than the German 8mm Mauser. Now there is, we'll get to it in a minute, about the grinding down of the markings on here on the sight. Again, I think I did this with the Swedish Mauser. A lighter, smaller round, it would travel in a flatter trajectory, a more powerful, so that's why they adjust the sights. This is shorter than the K98, not by a lot, but it is a shorter, and it seems like a lighter rifle. Shorter rifle, surely with a bigger cartridge, would give a bit more of a recoil. Unsure, couldn't find any info on that, but there you go. So I'll just have to look at my notes a bit more and turn over to the next page. Whew. Tell you what, it takes some work, you know, being still. I must stand diving and bloody doing videos and drinking beer. No wonder I need a week off work. Very nice it is. Can you say what you're drinking? I know you can, but all right, I will. Shall I? There you go. From Tesco, Paulina. Quite nice actually. Quite smooth for Sunday afternoon while my wife's out doing like stuff, you know, business. She went, what are you doing? Going in that man cave? I went, nah, I'm not gonna. I want to do some dusting. Oh, speaking of dust, I picked that Portuguese helmet up in my little helmets display in the loft. Bloody hell, I better get up there with a duster. Honestly, didn't realise how bad it was. Right, okay, so some of the rifles bearing the 6.5mm stamp had a double X nailed over them, you know, stamped in, so that they would know which was which. This was done by individual armourers rather than a standard. The 8mm variant can be distinguished visually from the 6.5mm one, with the 1939 mods including a shorter barrel. Obviously, I was going to measure it I did buy this years ago as a 3940. Short barrel, distinctive front sight protector. So there you go, like a Y shape. So that gives it that outer way as a 3940. And ground down rear sight. So I'll offer you up the camera. Can you see that there? This here, it's been ground down. If you can get that. Hopefully you can. But trust me, it does. It is ground down. The Mauser-Vergueiro was kept in limited use by the Portuguese army until the middle of the 1960s, mainly in overseas units. So this will have fought in the colonial conflicts. These rifles are still in use in Africa. So the users, Portugal, Brazil, South Africa, German East Africa, and the international brigades. So that ties in with the war, Spanish Civil War, obviously, World War One, Battle of Timor. That's why I said that the Portuguese one account says that they only used Kropatschek rifles when they were battling the Japanese. Battle of Timor would seem to be that battle, so they probably use these as well. Northern Mali conflict. 8 to 5 round stripper clip bolt action split bridge rifle, and on the side of it, on mine, it says Espingarda Portuguesa 6.5 model 1904, made by Deutsche Waffen- und Munitionfabrik Berlin. So, if you can see that, you probably won't see it. So this will be an early one that's been modified. That's written along there. You can see it. So it's a matching numbers deactivated weapon. It does have a cutout for helping you push the stripper clip in there, and you see this little hole there in the receiver. What's that for? Well, it's for if you have a ruptured cartridge, ruptured round, the explosive forces, if something's wrong here, it's jammed, won't come back this way, possibly injuring the shooter. They will fire out that way, apparently. So there's something I didn't know. It has a little natty mag release, magazine floor plate release. There you go, pops out there. Very handy. I have cleaned this one up. I do clean all my guns all the time, to be honest. Put that back in. The sling has this little tie thing, and that's what I got the inspiration to do the Swedish rifle, but now I've got the G3 sling on there, courtesy of Military Mad. Did I say it was matching numbers? Matching numbers. Portuguese crown on the top. See that? Now, am I someone who's experienced in firearms? No. Have I used firearms in my life? Yes. I've fired live firearms, I've fired blanks, I've fired air guns, and my childhood, air guns, army cadets, live firing, blank firing, time in Australia, hunting, shooting, where we are now, air guns, Deac replicas. So I'm not someone who's not used to rifles or weapons, but I'm not an expert, certainly not. Apart from a little bit of time in the army cadets, I've had no formal training. I did actually mention this to Mrs. Stan the other day, that maybe I should go to the next level of maybe getting a shotgun license or something, because I do have a friend who has a farm. Exactly. No, she's she's not happy about that, so we'll just leave that. But yeah, they do interest me for the mechanics of how they work. Now, ultimately, military rifles, I mean, are weapons of war, so they have an ultimate aim, which is obviously, not good, the person at the other end of it. But I do like the mechanics of how things work, and my inexperience of rifles, firearms, sometimes when people say, it's a nice shooter, it's nice. This actually, I thought it was a lot shorter than the K98. K98 feels like, probably I should have wrote the statistics down, it feels like, compared to this, heavy and cumbersome, whereas this feels like a really neat, it's a little bit, putting the sight to your face, it is a little bit awkward, a little bit, just a touch, but it really feels like this is the only Deac I've got, and I've got a few, where I've thought to myself, as soon as I picked it up, wow, I wonder what this would feel like to shoot. Like really, it just feels right. I can't describe it. I've heard people say that about live firearms on YouTube and etc. etc. You know, forgotten weapons, people like that. But that's how it feels to me. It really does feel. It's got a nice feel. Again, a nice feel to something that is actually designed to, you know, shoot the enemy, which is not a nice thing. But then again, it is the engineering that I really appreciate. And before we finish of me talking 20 minutes, I'll just go on to the last bit of my notes. So the bayonet for this little thing is very nice indeed. A sort of typical Mauser looking bayonet, if you like. There you go. There are no maker marks on the scabbard at all, and the maker is Simpson & Co. Suru, which is in Germany. Now at first I thought Simpson & Co. That doesn't sound like a German name, but apparently the little brief bit of history I looked at, he was Jewish, a Jewish guy. When the Nazis took over Germany, Third Reich, etc., etc., they basically took the company off him, renamed it other things, but the Simpson name came back under the GDR, as far as I'm aware. But this is a Simpson & Co. Bayonet. The original finish on these would have been a silvery white, shiny bayonet. I don't think I've got anything to hand to sort of say. So I think it would have been later. It was blued, re-blued, probably when this was converted. But it is a really nice bayonet. I say a really nice bayonet. Again, when you think of what these things are designed for, but yeah, the engineering side of it, that's where I'm coming from. There was no exact records of how many of these bayonets, the design, etc., etc. The record was 75,000 of these bayonets were made. Portugal being a poor European country, they actually couldn't afford in the end to pay for them all, apparently. So that was from World Bayonets. So I'll put it on the rifle. I think the cleaning rod's a little bit bent. Oh, it went on straight away. So there you go. There's the M1904 Vergueiro with the bayonet on the end, and that makes for a formidable piece of how's your father, doesn't it really? And this one against rifles of the time, you know, sort of SMLE, even the Swedish rifle, Swedish Mauser of the week. Swedish Mauser, when you put the bayonet on the end, it's almost too heavy to hold. Whereas this feels all right, actually. It doesn't feel too bad. It is obviously heavier at the end, but it doesn't feel too bad at all. So yeah, that's the Portuguese Mauser. And yeah, anything you like, anything else you want to ask me in the comments. I think obviously this one has been converted to 8mm Mauser. So it is one of the ones that was converted in the 1930s. But a very nice piece of kit and an interesting piece of history to own. So that's it. That's Steel Helmet Stan. You've had diving, you've had drinking beer, you've had steel helmets, you've had Fairbairn Sykes books about attacking someone with a sharp piece of fruit, and you've had a deactivated Mauser rifle. So this is Stan, and I will see ya.